looking Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the UML, the Upsurge Minor League. I'm Simo. Alongside me is the man that does not need any introduction. Maybe an endangered species, but I don't think so. It's Man Walrus. How are we doing today, Man Walrus?
Great to be here. Tonight we got an Infernal Division matchup here between University of Michigan and AQUALIX Esports. AQUALIX, they looked really strong last night, while Michigan, they showed some signs of life, but they wound up dropping their series. Both these teams they've also got a bit of a history, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And this is the UCL, by the way.
The UCL. Oh, that's right. That's right. Even before we hopped into this, I looked at the wrong header. My apologies. UCL. That makes a lot more sense. UMich versus AQUALIX. Thank God I've got Man Walrus here, because if not for him, I would have started a fire, and we know how those end, especially if you watch Community. Tell me about these two teams. Tell me about what we can expect, and what are some of the highlights that we can, and let's start with UMich here first. What are some of the highlights that we can expect in this upcoming match alongside this entire roster?
So I got a chance to reach out to some players from Michigan and coming into this, and basically the biggest thing to look out for this team is that they've got two different Grandmaster mid laners, Omley and Clifton Beefy. They each have different styles, and they keep getting swapped in and out of the roster. Omley started in week 1, but Clifton Beefy got the nod this week. And this is kind of interesting because Clifton plays much more supportive scaling champions in mid lane compared to Omley. So I think we're probably looking at a slower, more scaling focused comp for Michigan here today compared to what they ran last week. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops more over the course of both this series and the season as a whole.
And so now we can flip that directly over to AQUALIX. What are some of the things that you personally expect coming up from this team?
So I also got a chance to reach out to them a little bit, and basically what I learned is that this team likes to fight all the time. They basically have a lot of confidence in their mechanics. They're going to be skill checking left and right, and they also love to run flex picks and draft. So I'm looking out for those.
Cool. Well, listen, we're no stranger to teams that love to fight. We've seen LGD throughout the world's run love to fight as well, but it's the objective control that seemed to be lackluster. I don't think that is something AQUALIX hopefully doesn't have a problem with, but we are moments away from the draft, and once we get in, we can actually start to decide and figure out what are these teams actually going to pick and how their draft is going to affect the game. Now, this is going to be obviously a best of 3, Manny. What are we going to expect? The distance, a 2-0? What are we looking for between these two teams?
Well, of course, we're always looking for a great series. But
Yes,
I think
of course.
You have to imagine that AQUALIX, they're the favorites coming into this matchup. Not only did they win and win convincingly last week, but this isn't the first time that these two teams have been in a group together. Last season, they were both in the really, really stacked Ocean Division, where AQUALIX were competing under the name One Chance. One Chance during the regular season, they had a pretty decisive 2-0 against Michigan during the regular season. But then they went on a run through the losers bracket, and One Chance made it all the way to the grand finals, where they lost to Illinois Academy, who were also in that same group with them in Michigan. So like I said, pretty stacked. Since then, AQUALIX, they've rebranded and they've swapped out their top laner. Michigan's done some experimenting with their roster, but looking at it based off the limited info we have from last week plus last season, I think it's pretty clear that AQUALIX should be favored, as we have gotten into draft.
Well, now we've set the stage, and draft is, like you said, underway. Already 2 important picks, 3 off the table. Bard, Nidalee, and Rengar. Some jungle pinch coming in from both sides. We'll see how that affects the full picture. And we are just moments away from our first pick here for UMich Esports.
Yeah, both of these, rapid fire bans coming out here. But both these teams, I like the targeted jungle bans. So Johnster, the jungler for Michigan, he is basically Rengar main in solo queue, and taking that away from him is good because so far this season he has looked kind of out of sorts when he's been on other champions. In fact, he even had kind of a weird game on Rengar. Pyro, and meanwhile, the jungler for AQUALIX, he has favored a lot of Nidalee in the past. And I heard this is also interesting too because AQUALIX, they love this Akali pick. So UMich taking that away is pretty big.
But is that something that you think Clifton Beefy could bring to the mid lane?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because that's not exactly in his wheelhouse. At least looking at his OP.GG, he plays a lot more of the Cassidans and the Corkis. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this works. ShamWow, their top laner, is a carry player, I know, so maybe they're looking at a flex as, too. But to me, I think it's a strong draft adaptation from them.
Yeah, pretty clear where that might be headed, but we still, of course, need to see other picks locked in, and we are seeing AQUALIX pick up the Lilia, who's just had such a tear on the competitive scene, and Senna locked in as well. That'll be likely rivaling the Ashe in the bot lane. Pretty standard picks. What do you think about this Hecarim coming in from UMich in terms of the jungle in comparison to what we have here against Lilia?
So I think that both these junglers, I think, are probably safe to say they're at the very top, basically of the pecking order right now as far as junglers go, and it's kind of a toss-up. I've heard from jungle players, because I'm not one, that they kind of favor Hecarim a lot of the time, but I believe it's a toss-up, and it really just depends on how the teams want to play it out. I kind of enjoy this. I also like the Senna from AQUALIX, and something that I kind of want to hit on is their support Monster Mash. He likes to run Maokai support as a pocket pick. They did it 2 times last week with Senna, so I'm going to expect that again if Michigan decides not to ban it.
Oh, and there it is.
There
it is. They still haven't locked it in, but that'll, of course, seal the deal on the fate of that pick. We'll see how they answer back. The Rakan as well, taken off the table. And I think the biggest thing to note here for the side of AQUALIX is, of course, they still have that last and final pick that's available to him. A lot of picks have already been telegraphed. But what is something that AQUALIX is going to want to hide in terms of this remaining draft? What do they not want UMich to see so that they can secure it at the end?
Well, they always kind of have the threat of flexing Sylas to the top lane, I think, is between mid and top is probably what they're going to opt for with this counter pick. That way they can kind of decide a good way to go into both of these solo lanes. So that would probably be what I'm looking for, is actually more support target bans coming out. This Pantheon being banned away from Mexican Thunder there. So we'll see what they opt for, though, with R4. We'll see what they look for.
Alistar being hovered, that's something that can definitely pack a very similar to punch to how tanky Maokai can be, and Alistar definitely no stranger to being tanky. That ultimate can come in quite in handy, especially when you've got such a lot of you have a lot of high damage threats so far on the side of UMich, and so that'll be locked in. We'll see what that's paired up with in terms of the remaining last pick here for AQUALIX. And Camille and Nautilus locked in quickly, so the Camille obviously going to be heading towards that top side. Nautilus going to be supporting Ashe in the bottom lane. And we are seeing, like you said, the Sylas potentially flex towards that top side. The Jax hover tells us that it's likely going to be locked in here, and it will be Sensei who is going to be locking that one in the top side. So the draft's been complete here, Walrus. We see now the full big picture of what we got between these two teams. And, you know, considering AQUALIX is the favorite, I wonder, do you think that they've successfully won the draft here? Have they gotten the draft kingdom?
I would actually say that, yeah, I think they have a strong chance to win these games. I don't think either of these teams, really decisively won the draft. I actually like what I see from both of them coming into this year, and I especially like the Alistar pick. He's kind of he's my favorite champion, so it's great to see that. It's great to see that come out. I know it's strong with Senna. He's actually gotten a lot better since the Q buffs. We've seen him at Worlds, so that's going to be interesting. Alistar versus Nautilus down in the bot lane. But UMich, they definitely went with I would say, a more aggressive comp than I expected them to, with the adaptation, obviously, throwing Clifton Beefy in here. So I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out in this game.
I mean, you were quick to highlight that that's not something that's in his wheelhouse, and considering it's going to be going up against the Sylas, in which, you know, the hallmark slogan for Sylas is anything you can do, I can do better, especially with that ultimate, right? He's just going to take it away. And not to mention, you know, having other ultimates at his disposal that he can use, you know, the Hecarim as well in case things get a little sticky. You know, the Nautilus ultimate as well. He's got a lot of different tools at his disposal if he wants to use them, if he wants to use that in the 1v1 or in the side lane pressure. It's going to be up to No Ego to really show us that he is, you know, superior in this instance. But it is also on the flip side up to Clifton Beefy, as you said, to prove to us that the Sakali is something that was not only drafted first on purpose, but he's willing to play it and do well with it. So that is one thing that we're going to have to pay attention to quite closely. While I am also, not going to lie, interested in seeing the Alistar Nautilus matchup, because those are two of my favorite champions. Me myself being a Nautilus one trick, so to see the Nautilus is good, but I mean that's been standard. The Alistar, as you pointed out, is relatively new. It now begs the real color question: what's your favorite Alistar skin?
I think the best one is honestly the Hextech Alistar skin. It took me like years and years to save up the gemstones for it, so now that I have it, I'm not sure if I actually like it that much, or I'm just too like afraid to admit to myself that like I really don't, and I just wasted all that time, collecting gemstones. But other than that, obviously you can't go wrong with the cowbell one, and
Yeah.
Marauder Alistar I think is another underrated choice. But yeah, those would be my favorites.
Yeah, come on. You can't go wrong with a little bit of cowbell. Come on. It should be the #1 choice, but I appreciate the gemstone is relative to the grind, right? The time, the work that you put in to get it, it makes a whole lot of sense. Nautilus doesn't have a lot of great skins, unfortunately. Obviously, the astronaut one being my personal favorite. But enough about skins. Skins are obviously only part of the reason why we're here. We've got a match up ahead of us, a best-of-3 in the Upsurge Contenders League between UMich Esports and AQUALIX Esports. And you highlighted initially AQUALIX being here the favorite in this matchup, coming off of a very hot and steady start to the season. And now as UMich is looking to try to, pretty much throw down and be the underdog in this case, in this game 1, let's have a look at what are the win conditions look like for this team. What do they need to do to find success and find victory here over AQUALIX?
So I think if you're UMich, you need to jump out to an early lead, probably off the back of this Hecarim. Maybe start getting the Camille rolling, getting the Akali rolling potentially, or getting this bot lane rolling. Really, nothing is bad in that instance. The way they're going to beat AQUALIX is probably by putting them in the dirt early game, because AQUALIX, while they're no slouches in the early to mid game, they are definitely a much more of a scaling comp than what UMich has put out. So I think that's going to be interesting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what they've drafted. They've got the Jackson, they've got the Senna, which are glaring points of the draft that say, hey, we're willing to take this the distance and we'll beat you along the way. Don't sweat it. But I think the Lilia pick is what is looking to keep them afloat, at least in the early to mid game. And we'll see how that shapes up, because Hecarim, once he puts those boots on, he's gonna roll, and he's gonna roll fast and hard. So we'll have to pay attention to his pathing, how he creates those early leads like you highlighted. But what are some of the things that you think AQUALIX can do to stop that bleeding if it does get to that point?
Yeah, so AQUALIX, they have a lot of late game insurance here at the Sylas, with the Jax, with the Senna, and Lilia also just like really, really strong. I think for the most part, they just need to hold on, maybe fight back once they start spiking. It's going to be hard to say what specifically they can do before the game starts, but basically they're going to need to not let themselves get run over. And I think if they don't, and this game gets reasonably close going towards the mid and late game, they're probably going to be in a pretty favorable position.
Absolutely, Walrus. And, before we throw to a quick little break, obviously this would not be possible without our sponsors. And our first sponsor of the evening here, of course, is Kono Keyboard. You know it, I know it. But if you personally are looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have you covered. Kono works with the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. Kono have been huge supporters of here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pool. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out the Hex Gears X1 RGB low profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. That sounds like a Dr. Disrespect line, but you can use the code discount UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head on over to kono.store to check out all that they have to offer. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this. We've got game number 1 in just a bit.
dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow, moving with the motion, following the light that sets me
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for bearing with us. We are now about to hop into our first match here on the Rift. UMich on the blue side and AQUALIX on the red. They are now going to start their fan out, and let's pay attention to this early game, Manny, as we see how Hecarim decides to path, where Jonst decides to go, and how Pyrorean will decide to answer back.
Yeah, looking like a normal line of scrimmage here set up by both teams. It doesn't look like anything particularly shocking is going to happen, at least so far, but you know, with junglers at this level, just the side of the map that they start on when they leave base is not always the side of the map they decide to clear. So we're going to basically just see where they wind up here.
Things, of course, slow and steady, but important match. Both teams, particularly UMich, to make a mark on the division that we're in here, the Upsurge Contenders League. Hecarim going to be starting towards this bot side. The line of scrimmage gave him vision towards the top. ShamWow going to get into a little bit of a scuffle here with Sensei. Does get the stun that will connect, but of course does not have enough damage to follow up. So just a little bit of a poke and prod between both. And both junglers will start on their respective sides. Hecarim with a Raptor start. That's going to be very interesting on how that unfolds. And how Lilia, of course, will path herself, getting a leash by Alistar in setting.
Yeah, nobody started with any deep wards, so I wouldn't expect any extreme jungle trickery in this game, because they don't have ridiculous amounts of information on the other one. It's just kind of guesswork, but Hecarim moving over to his red already. Probably going to be interesting to see what he does is, yeah, early trading.
Yeah, he was in a very cheeky spot, but, you know, for somebody like Nautilus, he needs to be level 2, level 3. When he has all of his abilities, he can really definitely pack a punch. So at the moment, just with, I'm assuming, the hook that he's got, I mean, he just had an early hit, an early advantage, and it does look like they will hit level 2 first, considering now the wave is starting to push in towards the opposition. And Akali already thinking about a little bit of a cheeky ward just to see where Lilia is deciding to path, and that information has allowed Sensei to get a little aggressive, maybe try to find an engagement that suits him, but he's actually just taking too much damage.
Yeah, this is basically just some early top trading shenanigans. Camille has the grasp, so she does kind of come out there slightly on top. But looking at the bot lane, the Alistar versus Nautilus, it's actually pretty favored towards Nautilus in like the extremely early levels. Once Alistar hits level 3, he'll probably be okay, but a lot of the prio, especially at level 1, goes Nautilus's way. Unless he throws himself on the Alistar. That's basically the only way Alistar can do anything, because you have to walk right on top of somebody to hit them with the Q. And, you know, at this level, no one's really going to go to sleep like that and let that happen. It's the AD carry.
No, of course. That would never happen in the Contenders League. That would never. We are seeing Ego without one. He is a little low on mana, as now the engagement does come through, but AQUALIX actually pulling back, and ShamWow gonna take this opportunity to get involved in the top side. Hecarim is nearby, but does not need the assistance. First blood going to UMich.
Yeah, I think Sensei just a little overconfident there. Took out a little more than he could shoot, but we are seeing on the way pings mid lane. Looks like Hecarim coming for a visit.
Oh, but Mexican Thunder's there as well, and he's looking to make the lightning come as well. TP is coming in here as well from Sensei. He wants to get involved, but he's just going to use that and the speed boost off the TP to make his way back to lane. I think they were hoping something would happen, but of course they back away, and nothing comes of this little scuffle in the mid lane.
Yeah, I'm still not really sure about what happened there top lane. I guess Sensei just didn't want to blow his flash there. He kind of knew he was going to lose the fight, but it was a little weird to try to stake that much on that early game skirmish there. I'm not 100% certain on it now. That's going to be really good for ShamWow coming into this. Now, Camille, it is worth mentioning, is his main champion, so he's quite good on this. So getting him ahead on this, if I were AQUALIX, I'd be a little bit worried about that one.
Yeah, we'll have to see what options Lilia has in order to stop the bleeding in towards that top side. Still no ganks. I'm assuming just needs a couple more items to really start to get rolling. We are seeing a little bit of engagement in the middle once again, but it's short-lived as just once again, both teams love to trade. It seems like that's the pulse that we've been gathering here. Nothing super committed other than that first blood in the top side at the fault of Sensei, who is now going to be in a really weak spot in this lane. Akali, I've kind of noticed, has applied a lot of pressure towards the enemy Raptor side, just gathering vision for his team. That is just invaluable. Having that information is going to be so helpful to the rest of the map.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good deep ward he's got down there by the Raptors. I think that's really big for Michigan to have their mid laner doing that, especially on Akali, because, you know, he's not really super useful for much else at level 5. So good to see him looking for that. It's actually... Here's a dive.
Oh, here comes Hecarim. Sensei's in just so much trouble. The horse comes out of the stables and mows him down. Clifton Beefy gets in a little bit of trouble himself, but once again, ShamWow wipes away the opposition and finds himself in a 2-kill lead. As you pointed out, this Camille's going to be very scary as the game continues.
2-0 start, already got that Sheen, got a comfortable CS lead here, knocking down plates. ShamWow is looking quite strong, as Hecarim may be paying a bit of a visit again mid lane.
That is just so much damage from the E there. And now Lilia doesn't want to get involved, but here's the Mexican Thunder. That's the lightning clap that connects with the Q, and still John's in a little bit of trouble. They want to re-engage here onto Clifton Beefy, but they don't really have the life forms to do so. As a result, you'll see that ultimate used there by No Ego, and unfortunately, they don't find anything for their troubles.
I don't think we're done yet, though. They're invading in and taking the Raptors. It looks like they will just be giving them up, though. There's not going to be a confrontation over it, but AQUALIX, they are still looking for more on this. All right,
yeah,
it's going to be Raptors.
This Hecarim just does so much damage with the devastating charge. That is just, like, literally one of his only tools. I mean, like, yeah, he's got the
Here he comes again.
Ball, but look at this. Like, Sensei's got no way to... Yeah, you can hop on over. Wait, what? Oh, that was the flash from ShamWow. I thought for some reason Sensei flashed back. That didn't make any sense to me. But, man, this Hecarim in this top side, 2 times in a row now, putting ShamWow 3 kills above his opponent, who's down about now 20 CS. Going to miss another wave to the push that is now towards the blue side. So things are just not looking good here for this top side.
Yeah, Pyroan is level 6. I think Clifton Beefy travels a little further than he would have liked to.
Yeah.
Right there into the tower range, but we'll see if they set up a play here with Lilia in the bot lane. It looks like they're at least trying to. So this is where the big edge comes in the Lilia versus Hecarim matchup, because Lilia's early clear, it ain't great. This is where Hecarim can kind of flex on her in the early game, but she's looking for the swirl seed, doesn't find it.
Yeah, so she's actually had nothing happen really go her way. There's been some presence towards this mid lane, but there's a lack of pressure from the bot in the top side. The top side kind of feels like it can be already lost, but the bot side, there has been plenty of an opportunity, like you pointed out, for Mexican Thunder and Instant to be quite pushed up, especially in the early levels. So, I mean, considering you're relying on Monster Mash and Oshawott to try to re-engage, but there's just been no appearances other than the mid lane. And that has to change if AQUALIX want to find some success, because so far it's been UMich that have been in the driver's seat. And they've got they've got their foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, it's gonna be really, really hard. As actually, you know, oh, there's pause.
I think we got a DC from Mexican Thunder. He did leave the game a little suddenly. It's okay. It's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. I'm sure he'll be back shortly, and we'll get that sorted for you in just a moment. For the most part, this game has really been feeling like UMich across the board in every lane. I mean, other than jungle, which has gone relatively even in terms of camps, it still has been Johnst who obviously has been supporting this top side and supporting it quite well. Camille up by double the CS now at this point, and the wave pushing in towards her, and the 3 kills to boot. Like, there's nothing I think Parian can really do to salvage that lane other than wait for Jax to get the Trinity Force and just come online. Or sorry, I think he's building Bork first, but he just needs something, right? He needs something.
Yeah, he's gonna need a lot of help that Lilia can't really give to him, unfortunately. This is where Hecarim shines, even though Lilia does have kind of the edge into the mid and late game sometimes with the sleep, that only is if the Hecarim doesn't start snowballing and scaling up and getting massive. And that is free just go again while Lilia's just been off clearing camps in the jungle.
And I mean, listen, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we highlighted this at the beginning at the bare minimum for the side of AQUALIX. They're looking to scale. They're going to try to find those pockets of success in that mid, in that late game. We saw a little bit of, presence towards this dragon. Nobody's really decided to take it quite yet. So that win condition has been delayed and delayed and delayed until somebody decides to eventually take this darn dragon that's hovering around, which is obviously a Cloud Drake. For the most part, what would you say is the cutoff point of no return for the side of AQUALIX? How much longer can they let, a lane bleed before they say, okay, we need something and something fast? Because I have a feeling that despite being down 3 kills, at least in the top side, their Silas is doing okay, bot lane's doing okay.